everyone, I'm Shuai. Now it's my turn to introduce my design. My design idea is to use urban green infrastructure to solve climate change. My whole project can be divided into 5 parts: site analysis, concept. My 2 design parts, which are waterfront multifunctional zone and an industrial oasis in the sky, and finally summary. First, I'd like to introduce the site analysis part. This part is done by the group together. The area we designed is the area along the Derby Creek. The immediate problem that needs to be solved in this region is the future climate problem. In the future, the region will face more droughts, floods, heat waves, and other problems. And Derby City Council also stressed the need to take measures as soon as possible to deal with climate problems. So the main idea of our design is to create a resilient landscape through green infrastructure to solve future climate problems. First, we use the GIS to analyze the site in terms of demography, land use, and connectivity, planning scheme, water system, urban heat, urban vulnerability, and vegetation. After this analysis, we point out the opportunities and constraints of the sites. The red dots are the areas with opportunity and the brown dots are the areas with constraints. Therefore, we have made our design framework for these opportunities and constraints and formulated corresponding design measures and guidelines. And the current site was scored by us, and also an estimated score was also given for after design. Ultimately, we settled on our design philosophy and direction, designing resilient landscapes to face climate issues from 3 perspectives: open space, transportation, and buildings. Next, I want to introduce my main design direction. It is to create a flexible landscape by designing and improving open space. I want to create an ecologically resilient landscape through urban green space, green corridor, riverside green spaces design. However, based on our previous research, I believe that the resilient landscape not only represents ecological resilience but also cultural resilience. Therefore, in the process of designing the open space, I will also pay attention to the aging population and Aboriginal culture and strive to create a landscape that is ecologically and culturally resilient. Based on this idea, I selected 2 sites as the picture shows. The first site is dominated by residential areas. Some streets have fewer trees, and it is also an area where aging population gathers, and this area is also an area with a lot of Aboriginal people. The second site is an industrial area. The site has low vegetation coverage, low surface infiltration, and a large amount of vacant lands. In response to these problems, I have researched some solutions. In terms of ecologically, I think that the problem of low vegetation coverage and low surface permeability can be solved first through points like green spaces such as pocket parks, bioswales, and roof gardens, and green spaces can be connected together by creating green corridors. In terms of culture, I think it is possible to create a public space suitable for the elderly through aging-friendly infrastructure. Aboriginal people have a sense of cultural identity through cultural parks. Above are my hand drawings of these solutions. And this is my case study for resilient cultural spaces. An accessible multi-generational park and a cultural park are analyzed. Next, I'll go to detailed design about my project. Here is some specific analysis about the site. As I said before, this site has an area with an aging population, high concentration of Aboriginal people, low vegetation coverage in urban areas, lack links between residential areas and riverside areas, and unreasonable road plannings are some of the existing problems. Therefore, my design logic is to create a comprehensive functional area along the riverbank. This includes riverside sightseeing areas, sports areas, areas suitable for the elderly, and Aboriginal cultural areas. redesigning the green space around the riverbank to connect it with the residential areas. This is my master plan of the Site 1. First of all, as you can see along the riverside, uh, I replanted it. I connected the green space around the riverside and built wetland parks, cultural parks, multifunctional parks, and other areas along the banks. And I extended some roads in the city to make it easier for people in the city to reach the riverbank area. In residential area, I added pocket parks and street trees to increase green space within the city. In Set 1, I selected two important nodes for detailed design, and it is the cultural park and this riverside multifunctional park. Regarding Note 1, the cultural park, I designed a cultural corridor and a small area focusing on displaying Aboriginal culture. It is this one and this one. And since there are many aging populations in this area, I also cover sports area. It is point 1 for the elderly people. The area near the riverside, I designed a trail for people to walk near the riverside. These are the sections of the design. And this is a rendering of perspective of people standing near the cultural corridor. And then the second node design, a multifunctional park. In this node, I mainly designed a floating bridge, which is the point 1 for people to enjoy the riverside scenery, and a play area, which is the point 2 designed for multi-generational people to interact, communicate, play, and rest. In this area, people can not only enjoy the riverside scenery close through the riverside trail, but can also stand on the floating bridge and overlook the riverbank scenery. These are two sections, and this is a rendering of people standing on the bridge. This is an area view of the whole Site 1. Next is the design of the second side. The second side is an industrial oasis in the sky. The first is a rough analysis of the site. The very small amount of green space in the industrial zone and the low surface permeability are the characteristics of the site. So my design logic is to create a sky oasis in the industrial area through green roofs, pocket parks, high altitude corridors. Firstly is the master plan of the entire large area. The treatment along the riverside is same as Site 1, increasing the connection between the city and the riverbank area. In this site, I've used the green roofs extensively, for example, this area. Since the interior of the industrial area is full of buildings, in the limited space, I have carried out pocket parks transformed on vacant lines such as point 6, but further increasing the green area of the industrial area while preserving the buildings can only be achieved through green roofs. So I built a green roof in the inner city area, like point 2, and connected it with the sky corridors. And in the area along the river, I also built green roofs, such as the point 8. In this area, I chose these two green roof gardens areas as the main nodes for detailed design. The first is a green roof inside the city. I connect these green roofs with the sky corridors. The position number 6 is the main entrance and exists of the sides of the corridor, and the steps are also designed near the streets and near the buildings for people getting on and off, like the point 9. And as you can see, I also designed the rest space on the roof for people to rest. Below are 3 sections. And next are 2 renderings for people standing under and on the corridor. Then came to the second node design, the roof garden by the riverbank. In this design, I connected the corridor and roof with the walking path on the riverbank. It is the point 5. And this can make the movement of people more reasonable. And a stepped revetment is designed beside the riverbank. It is the point 4. And these are 2 sections which can clearly see the structure of the corridor. And then there are two renderings. This is the effect of standing on the corridor to see what is happening below. This is a rendering of people's perspective from the crate. This is an aerial view of the whole site too. Finally, comes to the summary part. In response to the design framework proposed by our group earlier, I think my design responds a lot. The Aboriginal culture was adapted through the design of the cultural park, increased the green space by designing pocket parks and roof gardens, added street trees, selected links between the green space and the riverbank, and the urban space are served by corridors and extension of the urban roads. The aging-friendly open space is designed through some leisure and entertainment places. This is the introduction to my overall project, followed by the references. Thanks for listening.